I was sitting in my office one day in Manhattan, and I thought, gee, wouldn't it be cool if there was a superhero with the abilities of a spider? Welcome, true believers, to the Break Room Podcast, and now we're going to start talking about Spider-Man. Have you guys seen it? Did you enjoy it? Of course we did. We saw it together.
Spoilers! I may have saw it 3 times already.
Twice.
I saw it twice.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like you got it.
It was something else. And to forewarn you guys, there are definitely going to be spoilers in this episode. So if you haven't seen it, first of all, what the fuck are you doing with your life? And number 2, go fucking see it.
Like, comment, subscribe,
and then watch this episode.
Then, come back.
And then watch this episode because you're going to want to do a deeper dive. I felt like when I walked out of the movie theaters, I wanted to talk about it immediately. Yeah. But you got to have that like grace period. So I was happy on Sunday when we finally got to go see it because it was finally a moment to talk to somebody about it because we just saw it. I saw it with Joe on when did we go see it? Friday.
I don't remember.
And like it was like literally the show started at 11:20.
Oh yeah.
And then we got back to my house at like 2:30 in the morning, and then he had to drive all the way home. So.
We were on the app trying to find
it. It was like real red eye viewing of Spider-Man
until I found a theater that was playing it.
I was there. I was there watching all of it unfold.
But I have to say, I wasn't like losing consciousness at any point. You know, like sometimes when you go to these movies and they're a little boring, you start. Not with that one. Definitely. I was fully engaged the entire time, and I have to say I enjoyed it actually more the second time I saw it.
I thought the audience in the second theater was more.
Oh yeah, everybody was dead in the first one.
Yeah.
It was no emotion. Yeah.
So I had
this one,
the kid next to me was crying like a baby the whole time.
He was. Hey, oh yeah, that's right. I did hear that guy.
Yeah. He was just like blowing his nose, and I'm like, dude, COVID. It was like, cool, just enjoy the movie.
COVID commander over there.
I had the mask. Yeah, it was definitely a mask. The first time I saw it, it was like the first showing on Thursday night. It was a special preview, so everybody in that theater was gassed. You know, so we were clapping and crying. Everybody was in it, and that was really cool. That was a great.
The crowds were definitely akin to going to see Endgame with the whole Captain America Mjolnir scenes. There were definitely a few of those.
There were a few of those. Yeah. It's definitely a lot to talk about with those moments.
But first and foremost, first spoiler, it was fucking great seeing all 3 Spider-Men together on screen. I thought the setup was awesome.
It's not really
where
a spoiler, though. I knew
bring
that
him
was
in,
happen.
you know. It was the best kept, worst kept secret of all time.
It was.
I was anticipating it the
You're
whole
gonna have
time.
villains from every other
even
Spider-Man
Tom Holland
movie.
couldn't fucking help himself. Like he said that like he had a group chat like with them, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
I just knew it was happening.
I mean, the internet was profuse in the rumors. It was a lot of, there were leaked screenshots, leaked pictures of the guys together and shit.
I mean, the trailer that they dropped had the lizard getting kicked in like midair with like nothing there.
We brought that up in the last pod. I said in the last one, if they're not in the movie, like they should be offended. You know what I mean? It was set up in such a way, it required them to be there.
And kudos to them for being able to pull everybody back, because that could not have been easy.
No.
Getting everybody back, especially like Willem Dafoe. I mean, he's an established actor. He's probably not looking to do like Spider-Man movies anymore.
I like what he said, though. He said, if I'm going to be in this, I don't want to be a cameo. I don't want to just pop in and pop out. I want to be involved. I want them to see my face, and I want to be involved in the action sequences.
He did all
the stunts.
His stunts, that's cool. I mean, that's what brings character to the movie. That's what makes it, a lot of movie studios could just slap together. We got all 3
with the
Spider-Man.
Arn Anderson spine buster.
Dude, he powerbombed somebody and he did the Arn Anderson fucking...
He killed him!
Yeah, he
broke it in half!
That's it, he's dead.
He did. No, he did. So initial reactions are off the charts. So I think the immediate question is, like, where do you rank this thing? I don't know if you...
On a Spider-Man scale or on a Marvel scale?
I don't know. What do you think's the best way to do it?
Well, I mean, this is a culmination of 20 years nearly of Spider-Man movies on the big screen. When you think about it, X-Men in 2000 kind of kickstarted like a Marvel superhero on the big screen. In 2002, you had Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. We're almost in 2000.
I would definitely do. I would do this on a Marvel scale because as far as Spider-Man movies go, this is clearly the best one they ever made.
I mean, it had everything in it. Had every character from every Spider-Man movie over the last 20 years.
No matter who your flavor is, they were all there.
They're all there.
You know. meeting each other, having those interactions that you hope they have.
You could feel the care that goes into the movie too. You could feel that the story was written with care. They
gave Jamie Foxx a glow up from that movie.
Big time. You can always feel those things. It's not slapped together just to make a ton of money. It's gonna make a ton of money as a byproduct of them pouring in like heart and soul and making it matter and wanting to see, you know, all the things we dreamt about if it could happen. We said there's a lot of rumors that this might happen, but they exceeded all expectations.
Well, Marvel has always been the masters of what if, and they continue that through movies because
Kevin Feige's
like whatever you like, sky's the limit with these movies now. Like what you thought was impossible is possible now, and
for me, it's like what I feel like separates like the Marvel Cinematic movies from like previous like Marvel movies that weren't attached to the Marvel Cinematic Universe is they're able to really bridge a hybrid of like comedy with drama.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of, you know, scenes where, you know, it's an emotional scene.
Yep.
But they throw so much really good quality humor in these movies that I think that's what just makes them really enjoyable because you don't leave the theater like fucking depressed and really fucking sad. Like it's an enjoyable
like you're
ride.
pumped, like you're motivated.
They take you on an emotional roller coaster is what really they do. And I think since that initial movie Iron Man, every movie has followed that formula where it's comedic, but it also has a serious tone to it.
Definitely. I remember seeing Avengers like 5 times in movie theaters when it first came out.
Like, I did see that 3 or 4 times in the theater.
You said like leaving the theater with a certain emotion. Avengers, like the first Avengers, I was so high off that movie. I came out of the theater like
pumped.
Yeah, jacked. I will say this this experience, I left the theater similar to almost an Infinity War kind of feeling where there's not an unfinished sense to it, but because of what they do,
uncertain future kind of.
What's the impact? How far does this
kind of like the same
and
feeling you get at the end of the What If series with the, you know, the multiverse and all that kind of stuff.
Marvel.
Loki, like it's another one. They're really
not
setting up, like they're leaving multiple cliffhangers, and it's gonna be like the juiciest steak at the end. Like it's
Marvel's
just gonna
the
be
king right now of infusing all of their alternate content into the story arc because, like, my girlfriend wanted to watch everything when we got out of that movie, and we saw it twice. We saw it back-to-back days, and she wanted to watch anything that had to do with. I immediately showed her the Doctor Strange What If episodes. I immediately went to the Loki. Anything I could think of that was really directly tied to, and then we ended up going back anyway and watching all of our favorites: Civil War, Black Panther, all of these movies. Like, they're so good at getting you to do that because they infuse so many different elements and so many different story arcs into one movie that you want to go back and watch.
It's a running story, and then when you go back, there's like little things that you can pick up on now.
You have the catalog right here in this
That's
I do, yeah. So
let's actually go there. Let's talk about, like you were talking about, like where does this rank in the pantheon of Marvel movies? So let's go there. What's your top movie, and then where does Spider-Man No Way Home fall in that? You want to start with Sweet since he's been quiet? All right, I'll go fuck myself. Zach, take it away.
Yeah, Zach, let's get him in.
This is a very easy number 1 for me.
Yeah, we already talked about this, but I knew where he was
number
going.
1 for me. Beats all their Marvel movies.
What was your previous number 1?
Doctor Strange.
What?
Doctor Strange is my number 1.
Weird guy, Zach.
I didn't really grow up with Marvel. I grew up with Spider-Man, but not Marvel or the MCU or any of that. Doctor Strange was super fascinating to me when I watched it because it was like it was a movie that just like fucked with your mind in like a good way.
Oh, I enjoyed it. In fact, I thought the score of that movie was really good too. I like the music.
Yeah,
Doctor Strange is my girlfriend's favorite movie. Go figure.
Wow.
Yeah, it's Sam's favorite.
Two weirdos.
Yeah, Spider-Man is number 1 for me.
People like that Ben.
So come find you, Joe.
Oh, I love Benedict Cumberbatch. He's a great actor.
Yeah, he's so high caliber.
Doctor Strange is number 2. Number 3 would probably be, if I just off the top of my head because I'm weird, maybe Infinity War. I don't know. I'm not too. I can't think of another Marvel movie that I really want to have a burning passion to rewatch other than those 2. Really.
Okay.
So.
All right.
This was a creme de la creme movie for you, then.
Absolutely. This is the apex of Marvel for me. I preferred this way over Endgame.
Okay.
So.
Nice. All right. Hey, that's tough. I thought I left the movie theater thinking like I kind of had to exclude maybe the crossovers like Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, just in terms of if I was going to say, oh, this is like a top 3 for me, because those movies get the benefit of all those characters. They get the credibility of all those movies that came before them. This also receives a similar benefit, honestly, because 20 years of Spider-Man and Marvel history is infused into the movie. This definitely falls in, I want to say, the top 3 non-Avengers movies. Because when I include the Avengers movies, it comes into like maybe like a 4th or 5th. It falls out of the top 3, but it's an easy top 5 Marvel movie ever. Definitely.
What's number 1?
Damn. It might be.
I'm putting them on the spot.
I know. Hey, try not to come too prepared into these combos. So
we'll just do it.
Just recently watching them. It's hard to go against something like Civil War. I loved Civil War. I thought that was such a kick-ass movie, and it bucked a lot of trends. It ends very like, the Avengers just split up. The Avengers are fighting themselves. It's conflict. It's
Tom
not
Holland for the first time.
They brought Spider-Man in. They bring in Black Panther. Yeah. It's a real awesome kickoff to that phase at that time.
Yeah.
So I would probably say Civil War, and with like a close Infinity War, because I thought Infinity War was. I saw that movie like 4 times, like maybe 5 times in the same week. But this is Spider-Man is it's a top 5. It's a top 3 excluding Avengers.
Robbie, baby?
This movie was excellent, and I would definitely put this in like my top 3.
Wow.
Hands down. Yeah. And I am a big Spider-Man.
Yeah, I know.
Fan, like even when I was a kid, I used to love the cartoon and I had the toys. One of my favorite play sets of all time as a kid was the Chrysler Building play set from the original Spider-Man cartoon.
Yell at me.
It was the Kingpin's headquarters.
We need to go on a toy hunt for that, Rob?
We do.
Oh, put that on dude. Put that on the list.
It's up there, and it was cool because it was huge. It was a carrying case.
Yeah.
Like you could put all the guys on there. I still have the box for it.
Fucked up. Like Spider-Man can swing from on the.
You could do all kinds of shit on there, but yeah, Spider-Man could swing from it. But I love the original Avengers movie. I really love that movie. Yeah. So like that would definitely be in that top 3. It's hard to like round them out because there's so many good movies in there, and like the original Captain America. I love that movie.
Hell yeah.
They're
always trying to outdo themselves, so that's why it's hard.
Thor was great at the time, and Thor reached new heights with other characters, and Ragnarok, easily outbeat like the other 2 Thor movies. But I was excited about the original Thor movie because it had more of the Asgardian lore. Yeah. It had the Warriors 3. It had Lady Sif. And they left out characters too. Like people don't know who Tyr is, or Balder or any of these guys. But we did get Heimdall. I was really surprised we got Heimdall, and Idris Elba killed that. I wonder if we'll ever see him again. Never say never when it comes to Marvel movies, but he kind of got killed, and but yeah, I would definitely put this in my top 3.
Shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's tough to say who number 1 is.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, top 3. I can't go top 3. I'd probably say if you exclude the Marvel movies, definitely easily top 5. I'm sorry, not Marvel movies. The Avengers movies, easily top 5. If I include like everything in terms of like anything MCU or anything before that, it would be in the top 10. My favorite Marvel movie is still going to be Iron Man, no matter what. I also love The Winter Soldier. So that's probably up there as well, and I probably would say Avengers, just because there's nothing like seeing all those characters on screen for the first time ever, and when they come together, it's just like holy shit. Kind of similar to the music that they played in Spider-Man when all 3 Spider-Mans finally got on the same page and they started swinging into battle. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a really cool like wow moment, seeing the freaking theater popped for that. They went nuts.
Yep.
But yeah, the movie was amazing. If you're a Spider-Man fan, it's definitely going to rank in the top 3. Yeah. If you're not a Spider-Man fan, it's still one of the best superhero movies. I'll say that.
Absolutely.
In general, of all time, period. Definitely a must-see, period.
Yeah, all the acting was on point.
Do not wait till this is out of theaters and it gets ruined for you.
If it hasn't already.
I had to tell you guys. How many times did I tell you guys?
Yeah.
Go see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be spoiled if you watch this, so whatever, it's fine. But
like 2 weeks later.
It's just the
We gave a warning.
The importance of seeing it in the theater. I think it's one of those movies you have to see in the theater.
It's like Dune.
It's an experience.
So I mean, I'm gonna put it at number 1.
Nice.
And here's why. Because previous to this, my number 1 is I think of the Spider-Man with Tobey and Willem Dafoe. Okay. I think that Willem Dafoe is just such a great villain. I love the Green Goblin. Like, it's hilarious to me. And what I loved about this was that he was, if you think about it, he was pretty much he was the main enemy. He was the main bad guy, and he's the only one that got so far. Yeah. And I love how he was great when he showed up in front of Aunt May. And he's babbling, and he's like, I was just in here, and then I was there, and he's like all crazy.
Dying.
I love that shit, dude. It had me dying, dude. But that's why I thought that was so great.
And he got his 2 favorite movie villains in one movie. He
got
Green Goblin, and he got the Emperor.
Yeah. Palpatine made an appearance as a Lego, right? Was that what it was?
Yeah, it was a Lego.
It was great, too.
Because of the Death Star that he was building. That's why he had that.
Death Star made
But just beyond that, I want to say... but for so many Jonah Jameson, the casting of was it J. Simmons? What's
J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons, yeah.
He's phenomenal. Like, that guy's a great actor.
Spider-Man is a menace.
He's the best, yeah, and so much so that he is still playing Jonah Jameson.
Mysterio, now that's a hero.
So I put that at number 1 just for the arc of everything. It really ties together just any plot holes. Like, one of the things I wanted to mention was how they all started talking about how they spin the webs.
Yeah.
You ever have a web lock?
I love
That's
that because
great.
that addressed something that every one of us would have left asking, like, wait, they didn't address that? They didn't talk about their different way of doing things?
Since the Tobey movies, they were like, wait, it's coming out of him? Like, I think only Spider-Man 2099 is the only Spider-Man who he shoots the webs out of himself.
It's like
every
a bio
other Spider-Man,
thing.
he makes his own web shooters. But yeah, that is hilarious how they address that stuff. And of course, the pointing.
And the back.
The pointing. The
Toby's
pointing
back
meme.
has like 3.
I
It's like a
love it.
layered. Do you guys know the story of the layers of that whole Toby's back
It's
issue?
so good.
What are you talking about?
So
When he's like stretching out and he's like, oh, I think I got a stiff back from webbing around.
turns out, back when they were gonna do Spider-Man 2, Tobey Maguire let the studio know he was actually having a back problem. That almost put the movie on halt because the insurance company got involved. Everybody got involved.
Breaking the
Everybody got
fourth
real
wall.
worried that Tobey couldn't do the stunts. Sam Raimi was worried that he was gonna paralyze Tobey Maguire. So there was all this concern around his back. There was a potential for Jake Gyllenhaal to come in and be the Spider-Man in Spider-Man 2. There was, that's just like, this is the
boy.
variety,
Boy.
Hollywood drama shit. I won't go into the full details, but then they addressed it in a joke in Spider-Man 2. He's getting his powers back. He had lost them. He's getting them back, and he tries to shoot a web, and he falls, and he's like, I'm back. And when he falls and hits these cars, he's like, my back. And they almost didn't include the joke because they were worried Tobey would be
Such a good scene.
offended, and then Tobey actually thought it would be funny and kind of like laugh at myself. So there's like 3 layers to that whole joke in this one movie. So just right off the bat, though, if you didn't know all that, it's hilarious because he's the old Spider-Man. He's just an old man, and I'm suffering from back problems right now, and I thought it was fucking hilarious because I'm right at that age, and I'm like, yeah, I feel you, Spider-Man. My back is fucked. But
Can I crack your back?
they're so self-aware, and they did it in such a clean way. Like, it does not feel forced or awkward. You just laugh because it's just truly funny.
And Willem Dafoe did get a good smackdown, and he put in some work on Spider-Man. He hit him with the Arn Anderson spine buster. He hit him through floors, for Christ's sakes.
It was also great when when Pete was on top of him and was just beating the shit out of him in the wall.
Got about what to say, it's broken in half.
When he
That's
was
it, he's dead.
punching around at him, he also Goblin was still just smiling at him. Like that was
perfect.
that was fucking scary. Like
He's the closest villain to the Joker. You know what I mean? He's like Joker.
He's Spider-Man's Joker, 100%.
Yeah. He's trying to teach Peter these lessons about like loss, and you have these morals, and you're trying to follow this strict morality that you can't continue. You're not going to be able to do it because, Goblin is broken and he thinks everybody else should be broken. So some young kid, and I brought this up in the other podcast, meeting the other Spider-Man was important because this Spider-Man didn't lose in the same way the other ones did with the Uncle Ben. We don't know how this Peter lost Uncle Ben.
Can I say something real
Please.
quick? You, the one who said that losing Iron Man was like losing Uncle Ben, we were fucking right. We paid attention to the MCU. We want you to know that. We watch it.
Thanks for commenting.
We knew. Thanks for commenting, and we love your feedback.
It would be interesting to know if Peter ever had an Uncle Ben.
Appreciate that. No, man, it's
interesting to know if he even had an Uncle Ben. Like, we don't know.
He did because in Even Far From Home, the suitcase he throws on the bed before he takes the trip has the initials.
Oh, that I
Ben
don't
Parker
remember.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, there's all these little I watch these movies way too much, by the way. But
I've only seen them like the one time when I saw them.
It seems like they lost this Ben. I was talking about this maybe to an illness or an accident, not something nefarious or murder or it didn't.
Murder.
It doesn't necessarily. And this goes into the sacred timeline conversation, and it's almost like too deep to bring up, but it seems like this Spider-Man was inspired by the other heroes. He feels that he has this power. Now I have a question about where does the power come from? There's no Oscorp, apparently, because Willem Dafoe says it himself. There's no Oscorp. Where did this spider come from?
There's no Otto
Stark?
Octavius either.
Yeah, we don't know kind of the origins, but it seems like the inspiration was the other heroes, because they keep referencing like, man, they have like a lot of super people in this universe, and
I love that part where he's like, the Avengers, it's great. What is that?
What is that?
How is this helping?
That's perfect. That's so
Oh, you in a band, dude? Oh, that's awesome. I wish I was in a band.
Are they a band, the Avengers? Yeah, so it's interesting that the source and the origin for this Peter's Spider-Man is very different from what we know and understand. So yeah, they did a killer job. It's probably a 10. It's got to be a 10 movie.
I think it's a 10.
That's what Joe said.
It's a 9.
9.8.
9.5. 9.2.
You can't give it.
Where
10.
does the 0.5? What do you think? Yeah,
Well, you can't give it 10.
Nothing's perfect.
I have one word for it, and I think people would agree.
Nothing's perfect. That's why you can't give it a 10.
Convenience. Some things, some plot points seem to be written out of convenience. Ned's powers, we have no understanding of or origin to.
I have a feeling Marvel does a good job.
Without a doubt, they'll go back, not retcon it, but explain to us why. But
it'd be interesting because Wong is doing his own thing.
I think Joe has a specific...
I don't really have nitpicks about the movie.
No, but you said that...
You can't really give something a 10. Let's say hypothetically something comes out and it's a better movie than this, and you gave this a 10.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So now,
would it be on equal ground?
So I have a 10 on the scale, though.
To set the ceiling.
But I know you said something to me.
That sounds like some shit that a professor tells me before they give me a worse grade than I deserve.
Nothing is ever a 1 and nothing is ever
There's
a 2.
allowed to be 10.
Do you
That's
take the
bullshit.
soup can, or do you just leave it? Or are you an asshole?
That's
You can have like a
inside joke.
1.5 or a 9.5, but you can't have a 10 because nothing in life is perfect.
I disagree.
Right.
I disagree. There are some things that are just perfect.
Like what?
All right. I mean, there
Skyrim?
are. You know
Like
what I mean?
what? What's a 10?
I don't know. But
not
so,
Skyrim.
how would you feel if there was a professor that never gave a 100?
Star Wars.
You'd say, "Fuck that guy."
I never
think
get
the same
100s
thing
in
applies
school.
to movies.
It's always 90s.
Yeah. Well.
But
Potatoes,
Zach, I'm
potatoes.
sorry, I kind of went off a little bit. But Zach, did you
yeah.
have like something specific that you'd say, like, oh, I didn't like this, or this could have been cooler? Or
all I
better?
really have are minor nitpicks. Nothing crazy. I mean, the one that was really glaring to me was how like kind of easily they pulled Toby into it. I wish they had let it sit a little longer. I think that was the same.
That's what Joe said.
They,
yeah,
and,
that was
you
the
know,
thing.
I like what you had mentioned that you wish there was a moment where it could have been more of a Mjolnir moment.
Yeah.
Where it's like he comes in and webs someone and stops. Maybe he webs Lizard from grabbing MJ or I don't know, something like that. It was a little more holy shit, it's Toby. Whereas instead of just being like, oh, I guess we could just try and bring in the other Parker.
You could have introduced Andrew Garfield when MJ was falling, and Peter is obviously distracted, and then he comes in for the
They
save.
could have both hit the scene.
Lands, pulls his mask off, boom, he's in it.
But then you also have to realize they had to have
the
that.
Goblin, that's when Toby could have helped, save Peter. I just think they could have introduced him in a more epic fashion.
Yeah.
Like seeing them come through, like,
the portals
in a kitchen. It's like
I thought Andrew's appearance was fine because it was a very like, oh, they're doing it now. Like, oh, it's happening. That was a very like I loved that because Andrew's also very much like the way he portrayed himself as Peter in this movie was very fitting for that entrance as well. Like the way he was like, it's me, Spider-Man. I don't carry ID on me. What are you talking about? Like kind of like he was a good start, and I had wished they just introduced Toby.
See, as just a little Toby's my favorite Spider-Man, and I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. They're just like, no, that's just some guy. No, it's like, that's just some dude.
Cool youth pastor.
You're gonna fight like you're dressed like a cool youth pastor when you fight her.
I think of like pacing of a movie if you're writing this thing, and you got to understand your audience, and there's kids, and there's all this stuff, and at that point in the movie, I think they really drove you to a low because they were, they killed Aunt May. It was, it was definitely the low point of the movie.
You got your Mufasa moment.
And they could have kept going. Like, honestly, they could have drove the audience even lower by having Peter go into that fight with them unprepared, not ready to fight, and then have the other Spider-Man come and save him. And but they were looking for that, I think, team balance. Up and definitely balance.
But if they did it that way, where they continued the low, would have been a higher high.
Oh, you would have been. Right? So, I would have came. Yeah. But I'm an adult. I don't know. Sometimes I think about kids seeing the movie, and you're trying to have 10-year-olds.
In the history of cinema,
30.
as old as we're all old as fuck, except for Zach, even though he looks old as fuck. Sorry, I love you. No, there's only 3 movies that actually got me out of my fucking chair in the theater watching it. It's when Yoda fucking pulls out the lightsaber and Attack of the Clones, even though that movie fucking sucked.
They still
I still was like, oh shit, he's gonna fucking go nuts now.
And he did. To be fair, he did.
He kicked fucking.
Yeah, absolutely did.
That was the only redeemable scene, and one of the few redeemable scenes in that movie.
Only.
When Captain America grabs fucking hammer, man. When he put the hammer down.
I was definitely up clapping for that.
Yeah.
That was
awesome. And then recently with Mandalorian when Luke just shows up in the X-wing.
Fucking
I'm like,
grown man in tears. I'm like tearing up.
As soon as I saw the fucking green lightsaber, I'm like, yeah!
I saw the X-wing, bro.
When I saw the X-wing, I was like, no.
You're right. No. I was like, they're not gonna know.
No. And then the hand with the
That's gonna be that'll be a fun discussion.
I don't know if that could ever be topped.
I can't wait to gush. I can't wait to gush over that episode alone.
I just those 3 things alone, like for me,
I
think
screamed.
Spider-Man could have introduced a similar reaction like that. I feel like that.
It could have.
When the 3 of them came together to fight.
Oh, it was great. No, that was great. Yeah, that was great.
It's very like a. It's also for me that scene is a very like it's like a non-issue. It's just like, oh well, if I was writing it, I would do it a little differently, but it's nothing that was like.
They wrote a better movie than I could have.
No, and then it's just it's like trying to find something
exactly.
Versus where some movies,
I think the only other gripe I had is the plot continuity felt a little weird with the multiverse and like, well, who knows Peter Parker and who doesn't, and why are they here, and
that's some real meta shit.
I will ask.
By that. I was like, because I thought that those were like gods or something on the other side. And Rob's like,
if you look at the silhouettes, if you know Spider-Man villains, then you would know who they were. Yeah. In the first scene, we definitely see Scorpion, and we see Kraven the Hunter, and then we see the Rhino.
And I think there was a female too, which I think could have been Black
Paul
Cat.
Giamatti.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, she's
Paul Giamatti as the Rhino is the worst fucking casting of all time.
I think
I love how they reference that. They actually make a big
the worst.
That end scene though was cool, but I just mean the overall like, well, how did he know? He was Peter Parker. How did he know he was Peter Parker? That was.
And to be fair, I haven't seen that Spider-Man movie. Believe it or not, I never saw Amazing Spider-Man 2. With Andrew Garfield, I actually didn't see that, and I didn't see Venom 2 either, which is another one.
I'm missing much on that. Let me tell you that. It took me 3 sittings to finish that movie. It was just really.
Well, you can see now though. There's a big internet campaign to do an Amazing Spider-Man 3.
Each Spider-Man has had 3.
Now they want to try to like revive Andrew Garfield.
So let's actually go there. Let's talk about we haven't done it in a couple episodes. Who stays? Who goes? One Spider-Man, Peter Parker, on the big screen doesn't exist.
One of them doesn't.
Toby, Andrew, or Tom.
I'm gonna have to go with Andrew. I'm sorry.
Just like that.
Just like that. Because
reasoning?
not for nothing, I grew
After
up with
Vin
those
just
Sam
said there's a
Raimi.
petition for him to come
I
back.
grew up with the Raimi movies, and you wouldn't have the current movies if it wasn't for the Raimi
Fair.
movies.
Absolutely.
You probably would still have Tom Holland if there wasn't an Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, 100%.
So you're getting rid of Andrew as Spider-Man, or just in general you think like those movies were the lesser of the other?
Oh, they're clearly the lesser. I mean, obviously, Spider-Man 3 was an abysmal fucking movie, but like
He was a better
the second Spider-Man was a really fucking good movie.
that was my
That
favorite
was
Spider-Man.
was
the
before
best
this.
one.
That was one of the best
Now.
superhero movies at the time.
It was.
Second Spider-Man
In the
is
world.
my favorite Spider-Man. It still beats No Way Home for me.
Really?
Yeah. In terms of the scale, I'd put No Way Home at like a 9.2,
Yeah, I
and
would
then
say that.
Spider-Man 2 is like a 9.5. Purely because the plot in Spider-Man 2 is a lot
So
more
good.
cohesive, and
So
it's
good.
like you get a
it's
start
less
and a
confusing.
finish in like a very satisfying way, and it like that movie takes you up and down and up, and like the part when Harry pulls off Spider-Man's mask and he sees Peter, and that whole dynamic of being like, oh
My
shit,
best friend Spider-Man.
my best friend's the guy I've been wanting to kill this whole time.
Right.
Because he like that moment was already like I couldn't imagine seeing that in the theater. I would have lost my fucking mind, you know.
So
I did.
Who are you
Yeah,
going with?
I remember.
Well,
who goes?
Let Vin go first because we'll go around the circle.
Counterclockwise,
Yeah,
Counterclockwise,
yeah.
or
Yeah.
just zigzagging like spiderweb?
Yeah, it's tough. Getting rid of one of the Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire is part of the origins of the success of Marvel. So I would say 2 is the best. I went back and watched them. 1 isn't as good as I remembered.
No,
it's not.
no.
Honestly, it's very hokey.
I got you for 3 minutes.
It's
3 minutes of playtime.
Yeah, it's on that verge of like, let's make this a comic book movie. So you remember the original Hulk?
What are you doing up there?
If anybody saw the original Hulk movie,
Oh yeah, I saw.
Oh,
that.
yeah.
The original Hulk movie, you're talking like...
It was.
the Marshmallow Man Hulk that they did. Remember that one?
I didn't hate the
not
CG in
Lou
that
Ferrigno,
movie.
right? You're
but
talking about...
Yeah.
No, sorry.
The
So
one
just
before
2000s.
Edward Norton?
Yes.
Yes.
So I view like the first Spider-Man kind of in that same vein where they wanted to make it feel like a comic.
the Hulk dogs, like
Yeah, it
Nick
just,
Nolte, fucking.
I'm your father, Bruce.
Yeah, and like some things don't work. Some things just don't work well. But anyway, so
Green Goblin works.
no. And I meant in the Hulk. Sorry.
Oh, okay,
In
okay.
the Spider-Man
Yeah.
movie, much.
Can we get a
better.
good
This is-
Hulk movie? Like, just
Please,
fucking...
Planet
Or,
Hulk.
or like
Let's
a Hulk
go.
game that like is actually
Come
good.
on.
Like, come
Girlfriend
on.
asked me, did they do a standalone?
Why do
like,
they keep
Hulk
pushing
movie?
the Hulk
I go,
back?
Why?
Like, just give me one good solid...
I
We
blame
need a
Mark-
World War
I blame
Hulk.
Mark Ruffalo a little bit.
I blame Edward Norton
'cause-
because Edward Norton passed on Avengers, and
Which
then
was dumb as fuck.
good luck. He
I
hasn't
don't
done
know why.
shit since
I don't
then
know why
either.
you would pass
Nothing.
on that.
Like, where is he now?
Why did you pick up the movie if you weren't gonna do?
Now he
like,
talks about
the
Avengers less than Fight Club.
But no, so I do think Andrew Garfield was a better Spider-Man, and Tobey's a better Peter Parker. Like, it kind of gets into that conversation. Because Andrew Garfield's like clever, snarky, quick.
I
kinda
remember
innocent.
hunting the
He has
toys
this
down
innocence to
for the
him, and
Raimi
it comes
movies.
through in the late in No Way Home. He's like a very, I don't know, heartfelt character.
He is
Toby
the Spider-Man.
is very snarky, and Toby's kind of a dick, and I could, he's personally kind of a dick as well. But I would still get rid of those 2 movies. I would get rid of the Garfield movies if you gave me a choice. Like,
If you get rid of those, no more Paul Giamatti as Rhino.
Oh no, my
Christ.
my poor heart.
Paul fucking Giamatti.
Jeez.
It's like, oh, I need the Rhino. Who the fuck should we cast? Oh, Paul Giamatti's available. Get the fuck out of here.
But I do
Suit.
one of the
fuck out of here.
fucking Rhino mech. What is that shit?
one of the things that they
should feel
finally
bad.
admitted to was the sandwich situation with Feige and Pascal. You guys ever hear this conversation?
No.
Sandwich situation.
Sandwich situation, which they made a reference to in Endgame.
I have no idea what that is.
Oh, damn! Quick story. So,
Hot take. No.
real quick in Endgame, Captain America goes to Black Widow. All hope is lost. They're just, it's before Ant-Man comes and buzzes the door.
Yep.
And Cap makes a joke at Black Widow, and Black Widow responds with, like, don't make me throw the sandwich at you.
Oh, that's
That
right.
turns out to
I
be a
remember that.
reference to something that actually happened. Amy Pascal is the producer over at Sony, And after Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man 2, they were in deep shit because the movie bombed. It was cost them a ton of money.
Right.
Feige was involved in the original stuff, and they brought him in and they wanted him to consult. And Kevin Feige goes, "Nah, I can't do that. Like, we'll make the movie, and you just kind of help us put it out there, you know?" And she fucking threw like a sandwich right at his head, and that was like the meeting. That was pretty much the whole meeting. Amy Pascal hits Kevin Feige in the head with a sandwich, and then later says, "Yeah, okay, you're right. Like, we'll let you do it." And they had some great ideas, so of course. But yeah, that's the sandwich story. Anyway, I thought it was funny. Amy Pascal in recent interviews openly admitted to it. It was always rumored, and it was told as a secondhand story. It was referenced in Endgame, and now it's confirmed she actually did
Cameron
throw
sandwich.
a fucking sandwich at him.
We kind of went all the way around in a circle. We're still doing who gets rid of, right?
Oh crap! I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah,
You can,
so-
you can cut that whole thing out.
It's up to Zach.
Cut all that shit out.
No, that's
Can
good.
we
No,
pineapple for a
that's-
second? I gotta stand up
That was
for
a good tangent. We're gonna loop back though. Who goes?
And so again, I would get rid of Andrew Garfield in
Andrew
those two
Garfield.
movies.
Okay.
Those
That's two
just-
for Garfield.
Two for
One more,
Garfield.
he's out.
He's got caught in the middle. You know what? Oh man, I spit everywhere. Wow, wow, bro.
COVID.
I'm spitting.
I'm gonna save you now.
Pineapple it. I think Rob wants to get up.
Hey Zach, what's your hot take?
Oh boy.
Uh,
Beautiful. No, that's perfect. That's perfect. That's perfect. Let him go. No, this is it. This is staying in. This is staying in.
Yeah, this is the way that conversation.
Two whole.
COVID commander.
Please God, help us. Help us all.
There's no help for us.
So, anyways,
Oh yeah, but seriously, who?
So who goes? Come on, let's know. Out of the three, what do you think?
Tom Holland goes.
Tom Holland.
Fuck out of here.
He said
Tom Holland tunnel. You don't like him?
Jesus.
That's
What?
not.
He
you're
asked
just-
for a hot take.
You're trying to be trendy.
I'm not being trendy.
Wow, yeah. That's
Trendy.
true.
This is all
That's
being
true.
trendy.
I have seen now the internet backlash to the popularity of the movie. Now it's like, let me find
But I like
something
the older
to
guy
complain
because he's
about.
not as popular. Come
So
on, man.
The way I view this, right, is if I were to replace, and this
So
is
you would pick Paul Giamatti over the.
a rhino's a rhino. I don't know.
Rhino.
Here's the thing, right? The way I perceive this, and this is not like in any way,
fuck,
shape, or
man.
form a jab at like any of these actors, because all three of them are fucking incredible. Like this is not a battle of like who's the better
Skill.
actor, because they were all skill. They were all phenomenal.
Those
Thing
two
is,
movies-
I could watch Tom Holland in anything, and he would still be incredible. I can watch
guy.
I can watch the Uncharted movie, and I'm sure he's gonna be fucking
What was
phenomenal.
he in besides Spider-Man?
He's done a few other things recently. I can't think of them off the top
Before
of my head.
Spider-Man, where did he come from?
what the fuck was
Where did he
in?
go?
You know what's
Where did he
crazy?
go
He
from?
actually doesn't
Where
have
did he go?
the like formal acting chops. He
Andrew
I
Garfield?
think did a play, and he got discovered. I think over in like the London play scene. I think he auditioned and did one play, and then that actually kicked off this whole like Marvel fucking thing because he wanted to play Spider-Man. It was like there's a clip going around of 3 questions to Tom Holland. Who's your first celebrity crush? Zendaya. Which superhero would you want to play? Spider-Man.
Who's
and what's your
Zendaya?
favorite?
Like, where does she come from?
Zendaya?
Yeah.
I don't know where
she's
comes
a Disney
from.
kid, I
Oh,
believe.
she's on a Disney
I-
Channel.
really?
I want to say she's a Disney kid. We need the internet
A
researcher.
Mickey Mouser.
Someone want to dial
maybe?
it up? I think she's a Mickey Mouser. I could swear.
Whoa, would you look at that?
You'll have your confirmation right
You
here.
know, now of course she's in like Euphoria. She had, I think, helped produce that
She's
show.
like 118 million followers on Instagram.
Oh, she's killing. She's definitely the new.
It's like
She was
more
girl.
than The Rock.
My
more
girlfriend
than, like,
again loves her.
She was one of the
She's
leads in Dune.
Yeah, she's in Dune.
she's in Dune.
She had about 14 minutes of on-screen time, but she was like the poster girl for the entire movie with Timothy.
She's a
Chalamet.
draw
She's
now.
part of like the I don't know, not the
Fremen.
slave race, but
The Fremens. They're the people of Arrakis, which is the sand planet, which is what the
okay.
what you're referring to.
Gotcha.
They're like the underground dwellers.
I think
They'll
if they
be
don't
highlighted
choose
in the
like
next
Rosario
movie.
Dawson, she can make a great Ahsoka.
She would be a
Oh,
good.
yeah,
She'd
that's
be
a
a
good
great
one.
young Ahsoka. Yeah.
Holy shit. Wow, that's a good idea.
Am I wrong?
Hey,
Am I
no.
wrong?
Write that down.
Am I wrong?
Everybody wants
Take
to see
notes.
her in like a fucking Spider-Man outfit.
Am
or
I
something,
wrong?
So
My
wrong.
my justification though on why I would take Tom Holland out is because he's great and everything
You
else.
got 60 seconds on the clock now.
Shh, I don't like timers. I don't want to see timers.
These motherfuckers
You
get all
already
the time
timed
in the
Chris
world.
In the last episode, I want to see the shit.
I'm backing
Everybody,
up Chris.
fucking,
I'm
let's
getting
go.
back for Chris.
No more timers.
My justification is pretty straightforward. You wouldn't fucking cut me off, you fucking prick with ears.
Just talk
over there.
right through him. You got to bulldoze right through him.
I know it's your line. I'm taking it from you. You
Long
deserve
Island.
it.
What do you
Anyways,
expect? Everybody gets cut
Copyright.
off here.
so I think that Tom Holland
It's a
is
New
just
York thing.
phenomenal all around, and Tom Holland and Zendaya, in their own rights, have their own amazing screenplays and acting. Acting,
Chemistry.
chemistry, and they have their own things that are unique and amazing and on their own. And Spider-Man is just one of the pieces that put them together and elevated them. But it's not something that I can go my life without seeing Tom Holland as Spider-Man.
What?
Because Tom Holland is Spider-Man now because he's playing the role. But
We
Tom
can't live without Paul Giamatti over there.
But that means we lose Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame.
And this last movie.
my thought
Far
process,
Home, and No Way
my
Home.
thought process on it is
I could-
if I put either Toby or Andrew in that Civil War movie, I'd be just as satisfied as if
Probably
Tom
would be
Holland.
48.
Yeah, it was fine.
He'd be older than Tony Stark in that movie.
Okay.
Geriatric Spider-Man. Get the fuck out of here.
I'm saying specifically in Civil War.
Oh, all right.
But I could go without the whole Iron Man,
Andrew
Iron
Garfield
Man
I could
Jr.
see.
Andrew Garfield
So
I
you're
could
getting rid
see.
of Tom Holland.
But
Getting rid of Tom Holland,
Wow.
not out of because I don't like him. It's because I could go without seeing him as Spider-Man and he'd still be an S-tier actor.
Sure.
that's what Zach's doing. That's what Zach's job is here. He's here to deliver
The fuck up guy?
the
Just
go fuck
fucks everything
yourself opinion.
All right. I thought that was sweet.
Times.
Let's
Sweet
see
I
what
mean,
Sweet has to say.
If I have to choose, no, it's got to be Garfield because Tobey Maguire, in my eyes, is just the best Spider-Man. I'll be honest.
No lasagna for Spider-Man.
He's the best Peter Parker.
Whichever. I think it was the best movies. I think he had the best villains between Willem Dafoe and
Molina.
Doc Ock.
Molina.
I think those were both great villains.
Not Venom? Wow.
Was that?
Venom?
No, I was just making a joke. That fucking Venom. Whoever thought of that? Shit.
Three. Well, you know what?
Hopefully it was
But
instantly
my
five.
opinion on that whole thing was
You
like,
come into my office, you pitch of a slim, little, skinny Venom, you're fucking fired. Get out, get out, get out. Have
who
you
was,
ever,
who was Venom in that?
Is
Topher
from,
Grace?
70s show.
Is it Topher Grace?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Topher
Topher
Grace
Grace.
played Venom. That's
What?
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Should
put
be
some
taken
dirt in
the
your
back and
eyes.
beaten with a rubber hose.
Almost
I
as
can't
bad as Paul
understand that.
Giamatti.
Anyway,
Put him in the bedroom.
Get him the fuck out of here.
Put him in the bedroom.
But I mean, I would say Andrew Garfield. I feel like those movies really
He got fucked.
didn't do it for me. You
But
know,
it's not on him, I
not his
feel
no,
bad because,
Well,
It's like Anakin. He got
I
fucked
got
by
to
the
see
writing,
more
yeah.
of him in.
it's like
this,
George Lazenby. He got one James
can't
Bond
get a
movie,
word
and it
in.
was fucking terrible.
I'm just saying. I think that I got to see more of him in this movie, and that I was like, all right. I loved how they all interplayed with each other. So I think this movie was a credit that every one of those Spider-Man movies had something to offer.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
They
the
both all
problem
had their
in the
impact.
problem in all of them wasn't who played Spider-Man.
Absolutely.
That's
That's
a good point. That's a.
I removed Tom Holland purely out of love because he's amazing in everything else he does. Andrew Garfield is amazing in so many other things too. I mean, could I get rid of him as Spider-Man? Sure. But he, No Way Home justified my reason for not wanting to get rid of him because he was just so fucking good in that movie.
I think I know what Joe's gonna say. Let's go, Joe.
Well, let's go back to 2002. Sam Raimi,
I was too young for that.
Wayne's
What year
World.
were you?
Damn it.
97.
Fucking old reference. Nobody
So
gets
you
it.
would be 5.
I'm telling you, bro. I said Wayne's
I watched it
World,
on DVD. I
nobody
didn't watch it in
knows
the
what that is.
theater.
I know what Wayne's
Too young. to
How
remember.
much did you like Nickelback when you were?
I mentioned this in the previous
Love
episode.
Nickelback.
I loved it when I was younger. Yeah, because I'd get on my fireplace and I'd start my fucking fireplace
Let me
ledge.
take you on a journey.
Start dancing
The
and
hype
singing.
for me going into that movie, 2002, was enormous.
Yeah.
Because we have never seen anything special effects wise like that on the screen, almost, I would say, ever.
And
it looked, I mean, obviously you said it doesn't hold up now,
Yeah.
but for its time, it blew my dick off.
And
this
to be
was-
honest, too, it's coming off of, I remember vividly at the time, it was
X-Men?
coming off of 9/11.
9/11.
Okay, you're right.
And
Yeah, yeah,
they
yeah.
had to pause the movie
That's
because
true.
of certain
That's
scenes.
true.
And there was even
that's
more
a-
build
that's
up
a
around
fun story because when they first originally showed the movie poster, it had the backdrop of the 9/11 of the Twin Towers
Yep.
in the movie.
I remember
and they
that.
had to redo the poster to put it out in theaters too. So that kind of delayed everything on there.
I got one more fun fact, too, if you guys want it.
Yeah. Throw it out.
So there's one scene apparently. So when he's stuck to one of the buildings, and there's a close up and a reflection of his eyes.
Oh, you see the Twin
The
Towers.
Twin Towers
I
are,
remember that
are
as well.
still there. They
Yep,
couldn't
yep.
redo that.
Yep.
So that that fucking epic tragedy and being from New York,
Right.
it built more hype.
It was a
around
win
the
for New
story.
York,
It was-
Spider-Man.
It was just a way.
We needed that. I
we
think.
needed a pick me up at
Yeah.
this point, and that was the pick me up. It was a huge movie. I think box office wise, it was a smash hit, and you were really hyped for part 2. And then for me, part 2, until I saw the last movie that what we're talking about now was the best Spider-Man movie ever. And for those 2 reasons, I can't get rid of Tobey Maguire. Now, after Spider-Man 3, you're like, okay, let's get rid of Tobey Maguire because I've about had enough of that shit. That movie is fucking, like I said in a previous episode, Spider-Man on estrogen. Everybody in that fucking movie is crying. The fucking Venom's crying. Why is an alien crying? This guy's got sand. Why is he crying?
skinny?
Like, why? What the fuck? Everybody was just crying. It was just a really depressing, stupid fucking movie. Like, it made no sense, and it just destroyed Spider-Man for me. And it took years before they kind of rebirthed Spider-Man into, like,
It killed Spider-Man for a while.
It killed Spider-Man. I don't know the
Definitely.
timeline, but it definitely was at least
5
5 years. That's a long fucking time.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like, I just wasn't excited when the Garfield movies came out, and then they came out and they were all right. Like, they weren't horrible, they weren't bad, but they were all right. They were just about enough to get by. And you still haven't even seen them. That's how much you fucking care about.
I saw the first one.
The second one, though. The second one's better than the first one.
Also, question: the MCU was started before the Amazing Spider-Man movies came out, right?
No. Right in the middle of it.
All right, so I have to look at the dates. The only reason, I think
that
of
was,
that.
those movies were right in smack dab of all the Avengers movies that were coming out.
Well, that's what I mean, and because those movies
They were completely
were
separate.
Yes, it
Yeah.
made him irrelevant.
It made
was
him
like he's not a
irrelevant.
part
It
of
did.
this.
It
What the
did.
fuck
It
am I
did.
watching this for?
Absolutely, which is why you weren't as hyped going into those movies, because it's like you have this great universe with all these great intertwining characters,
Yeah.
and then you have this standalone Spider-Man movie where it's still kind of like not breaking that fourth wall. Hey, like, what's going on here? And then finally, when Civil War hit and you see Spidey on the screen with the rest of the Avengers, it was huge.
Sick.
And then, the rest of the movies that he was in, I thought all 3 of those movies were really fucking solid.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I would agree that Andrew Garfield has to go because the characters in his movies are fucking terrible. He even says so, and he makes light of it.
Yeah.
In the
absolutely.
movie, which is great and funny. So,
Self-aware.
yeah, it's tough, but I think he just got handed. Hey,
He got dealt a bad
let me
hand.
revitalize this entire franchise that was just destroyed by one really shitty movie, and he couldn't do it. Like the weight of that was just too much.
Yeah.
So I think putting Spider-Man into the MCU with the Avengers helped alleviate some of that burden and took some weight off the shoulder of whoever was going to be Peter Parker. And to be honest, I thought he was awesome in this movie.
Yeah, phenomenal.
I thought his acting in terms of like a young actor was absolutely fucking incredible. Yeah, he killed it, man. This like you really like pulled for him at the end. Like, I want to see him beat the fucking shit out of Green Goblin right now. Like,
Yes.
I want to see him rage, and we finally got to see a superhero rage. Like, we didn't get to see that with the Hulk, where I thought like
Thanos, he should have got that
he should have got his
fight.
redemption on Thanos, which is why I don't put Endgame in my top 5 Marvel movies, because that nitpick is a huge nitpick for me. And I waited 3 fucking movies for the Hulk just to go fucking ballistic on fucking Thanos, and it didn't happen. It was just awesome. And then he was about to kill him, and Toby comes in and just looks at him, gives him that stare. I thought it was just a great ending to like a already well-built movie.
Yeah. Well, Toby in the first Spider-Man, he had his moment. He had a moment of rage too. When
he did.
It was the same sequence where he was gonna beat the shit out of Goblin to the point where he was gonna kill him.
You know what Andrew Garfield reminds me of? You guys, Rob has it because it's behind him. The original Spider-Man on PlayStation, the video game.
Hell yeah.
The humor in that, like all the little like quick wits, all his little jabs when he's flying around, like that to me is how I envision Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. He's very quick-witted, he's snarky, he makes snoot comments, he's funny, where the other two Spider-Mans were very like, well, I would say wholesome, right? I would say like Tobey's wholesome, where Tom Holland is unsure of himself yet.
Yeah, he's still
he's
young.
not really. He's still finding himself yet.
Yeah.
He
has some growing up to do.
Some growing up to do. So they're all completely three different.
And it's a pure reflection of the comics too, because the comics always were that way.
Yes.
Spider-Man had the quips.
Yes.
In fact, one of his most powerful
Depending on
weapons
who
was
wrote
being
him.
able to piss off his enemies
Yeah,
to the point where they have
mistakes.
blind rage and they make mistakes. That's how he beats people that he has no business beating.
Right.
That's a good point. No, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I think moving forward, though, we have some interesting things to consider.
Jeez.
For one, Andrew Garfield, we are sorry, but I'm sorry, you go. But I think in the future of Spider-Man is very interesting. And what we see from this movie now, what villains we see next, who gets introduced to the saga.
Can we talk that, like, do a little hot take for Zach real quick? Can we talk about, like, one villain that you would want in the next Spider-Man movie that has never been...
Okay.
So, I mean, obviously, Venom, if you watch the credits roll, they're going to introduce the symbiote and Venom into the next Spider-Man, whenever that happens. But, like, let's just go around the room and get a feel for, like, give me a character that has not been in any of those 20 years worth of Spider-Man movies that you feel like it's time. Paul Giamatti as runner?
Let me start here.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna go with Scorpion.
Okay.
Bless you.
Gorgon.
I'm gonna go with Scorpion because I love the character of J. Jonah Jameson, and the whole story of the Scorpion. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is like Jonah Jameson pretty much fucking turns his son-in-law. Isn't it his son-in-law? And he like turns him into the fucking Scorpion.
Matthew Gargan, I think his name
They
is.
introduced him. He's in Homecoming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the guy in Homecoming on the ferry.
Yes.
That is doing one of the deals, and then the deal goes south because Spider-Man, interrupts. That's Matt Gargan. Yeah. And then in the end credit scene, Vulture's in prison.
Yeah.
Right.
Matt Gargan. Is it Gargan?
Yeah, it's Gorgon.
Yeah, Gargan.
Stops Vulture and says, "I heard who
Michael
Spider-Man
Keaton was
really
the
is."
Vulture, right?
And Michael Keaton is the Vulture.
Where it happened with that?
He's in prison.
Michael Keaton's in prison?
Michael Keaton's in prison.
Like, for real?
Not for real. But I'm saying
in the movie.
Well, why haven't they made any more light of that or any kind of like...
He's in
You
a
just put
Venom.
Michael Keaton...
He's in a Venom end credit scene as well. Which
the
almost
first
doesn't
one?
make any fucking sense. I can't think of the multiverse shit.
He's in the Morbius trailer.
He's in
Trailer too, yeah.
He's in the Venom end credit scene? Which one?
I believe he's in.
Oh, the first one when he.
That was Carnage.
Yeah, that was Carnage and
and
Keaton was there.
I believe Michael Keaton.
Oh, that's
there.
right.
So there was precedent for Scorpion.
Such
to
an
be
odd
in it.
placement of him.
Yeah,
though.
Vulture being missing maybe from this movie.
No reference, no nothing. Like,
I don't know, because like they have a different relationship in this movie too, because Vulture owes Peter because Peter saved his daughter and him. So I think it kind of puts him on the sideline for now until
Vulture also felt kind of forgettable. Like in the grand scheme of all the villains in Spider-Man.
yeah, but I mean,
In the series,
fucking Michael
Vulture has felt very forgettable compared to,
agreed.
like Green Goblin or... But
He
yeah.
just doesn't have that bone to pick with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So it would have felt unnatural if he had come in and just been like, "I want to kill Spider-Man too." They're smarter than that.
so you would go
know.
Scorpion.
Well,
It's
he
mostly with
doesn't
Jonah.
actually have a gripe with Spider-Man. He was hired to destroy Spider-Man with the Scorpion suit.
Yeah.
And then it fuses to his body and he can't get it off. And now he hates J. Jonah Jameson for ruining his life.
And I love that story because
And now
you
Spider-Man basically has to save J. Jonah Jameson from...
And I love that.
Yeah.
That's why I would choose that. I love the idea of this
It is a fun dynamic.
this Alex Jones type of guy creating a golem of sorts. And it just blows up in his face,
just
and
immediately Sopranos.
yeah.
created the
I created a golem. I created a golem.
Oh my god!
I love that idea, and I'd love to see more of that.
It's also with Scorpion too. It's his hatred for Spider-Man comes from Spider-Man trying to help. Spider-Man's trying to help him, Spider-Man's trying to help Jonah, and he fucking hates Jonah. Like, he's gonna murder Jonah, and Spider-Man keeps saving him.
And he's paranoid too. If I remember him in the one video game,
yeah,
where he's just like, the cameras, they're everywhere, they're coming after me. Like, he's very paranoid and like mentally like unstable.
Yeah, Gargan's good.
So that makes sense.
For me, it's a tie. It's close between either.
You get one.
I know. I'm trying to decide.
Is the
Black Cat or Hobgoblin. Because Hobgoblin is I guess he's a much more nefarious and like cunning version of the Green Goblin.
He's worse.
He's just a bastard. He's just a straight up like he murders without a second thought. Like Goblin is the back and forth with Norman. Hobgoblin is just fucking Hobgoblin, pure evil. Totally different guy.
Ned technically played him in.
I can't remember off
There's
the top of my head.
multiple origin story. You know, it depends which one you choose because Ned Leeds. Is Ned Leeds? I think that's his name. His best friend actually becomes Hobgoblin in one of the comics. Like, there's, I think, multiple sources. Harry is one.
Goblin Jr.
There's no single source.
Because that'd be interesting in the next movie where, you know, Pete's at an all-time low and you bring in Hobgoblin, who is like, he sees Green Goblin reborn in a way. That would be an interesting, like, that leads maybe to him getting the symbiote, now the black suit, now the worst of Peter comes out, and now he becomes vicious and vengeful and very, you know, he's not pulling punches anymore, like
I
Garfield
love how they
said.
That Andrew said.
And that'd be a good way to get that Venom, the symbiote that they had at the end of the movie, like
Marvel
could really feed into that.
Marvel doesn't include end credit scenes for fun. They do it on purpose.
Hobgoblin would be good. But Black Cat would also be cool because Black Cat is very, again, like cunning and very like Black Cat's a very gray area because she wants to rob and steal and, you know, she in a way a Robin.
She's Catwoman.
Robin Hood.
Because Catwoman's worked side by side with Batman too. You know, like.
They do that.
It's definitely,
but it's an interesting one because it would fuck with Peter, like in
and what the interesting dynamic with her specifically is that she's a love interest of Spider-Man, not Peter Parker,
exactly.
And Peter and Spider-Man are two different people.
Again, it could bring out the black. It could bring, if he has the symbiote, maybe he's working with Black Cat and they're doing some. That's where Jonah really gets on his case again
And it would be really interesting if, like, he's trying to work up the nerve to start talking to MJ again, and Black Cat comes along and kind of muddies those waters. And then it could be an interesting dynamic if she finally does figure out what's going on. Yep. And it's like, well, why didn't you just come to me right away?
Yeah.
Now it's going to put a strain on that relationship.
It depends on the world, too. Because
like, you should have, like, immediately told me. Like,
I have a lot of theories when it comes to, like, you know, the spell and... I don't want to take us off track again. So.
But in different circumstances, Black Cat also ends up with, you know, Spider-Man and some of the comics and, you know, messes with that in a lot of them. But
Felicia Hardy.
I think Black Cat would be my pick for the next movie, and then the one after that, Hobgoblin. What do you got, Vin?
I mean, they previewed a few of them. I think about like Kraven the Hunter. He's a cool, you know, he's a pretty. Isn't he another hired? Like, isn't his whole thing against Spider-Man? He's hired.
Yeah.
And it's more of a sport thing for him.
It's just business.
Yeah, that's cool. Kingpin, you know, Kingpin's probably the guy that, you know, and that's what they seem to be setting up as well. He's a fucking great villain for Spider-Man.
And you can bring in like cool characters like Tombstone.
Yeah, he opens up the door to so many other things. I haven't watched the latest episode of, Hawkeye, but I've already seen the one before that in combination with No Way Home. It seems like that's going to happen. But I was also going to say The Punisher. Isn't The Punisher another Spider-Man villain?
Yeah. So that's how he was introduced. He was trying to take him out. I'd love to see that John Bernthal try to take down.
Oh, dude. Bringing him into MCU, that's going to feel cool. And I think it would be awesome to see kind of that what do you call it? Like Spider-Man's being hunted.
Yeah.
And the person who's hunting him is actually better than him in a way.
Yeah.
And he has to continue to improve his skill and get better at not just being able to brute force fight, but be clever, be more of the Spider-Man in the shadows.
They introduced like a new comic from the Punisher, and they're completely killing that character. recently, with just as of the last couple of days.
That's funny. I saw an article for that. They're redoing Punisher completely.
Yeah, they redid his logo. Doesn't have the skull anymore.
Okay, that's dead to me.
He doesn't have guns. He has swords.
Yeah, you're dead to me. Don't do that. I don't want to hear any of that shit. That's whatever. That's a cultural thing right now, and it's not true to the content and the characters they created. So, if you want to be faddish but that has no place in like what they're trying to do in the movies now. I don't really think that's.
And they're separate entities as well.
We have some really good choices, Rob.
Yeah, dude. What's up?
I mean, to not mention somebody that's already been mentioned, because there's been some great mentions. It would be interesting to see if they introduced like the Chameleon. That could cool create a problem for people.
He has like the most super villains.
He's like Batman. He's got an impressive rogues gallery, but they now refresh my memory because I haven't watched the last Spider-Man movie before this like in a while. He references Nick Fury being on the bridge. Was he in the scene? That could have been Chameleon, because if they're saying that Nick Fury was off planet for like a year.
Oh, you want me to go there? All right. So Far From Home. Nick Fury's in the movie. Turns out at the end of the movie, it's not Nick Fury. It's one of the
Skrull.
It's the Skrull from Captain Marvel.
Gotcha.
So they're not bad per se, but I guess
I couldn't remember that part, so I didn't remember what happened in that particular sequence.
And
but that makes sense.
Me to a whole other thing, but
the secret invasion. That's a whole nother thing that can happen now.
They have the show planned for that, and so that's going to be Disney Plus content.
Cool.
They make a reference to it in the movie where he says like, call Nick Fury. Nick Fury knows everything. And he's like, Nick Fury's been off world for like a year. So that brings me to a whole other question that I have about the spell. But so it's weird because that means everybody's aware that Nick Fury's gone, but the Skrull is acting in Nick Fury's place. I assume under Nick Fury's orders, because
I would imagine
at the end of Far From Home, Nick Fury's up in space doing God knows what, creating Sword, I guess. I think it's not S.H.I.E.L.D. anymore, it's Sword.
Yeah, it's Sword, yeah.
And, that's what they did in WandaVision.
Exactly.
And I think that's where Captain America is, but I can talk about
interestingly
that
enough, but the main character from from Sword that was in WandaVision ends up becoming the new Captain Marvel.
Rambo.
Yeah.
Monica Rambo's daughter.
Monica Rambo. Yeah.
So wait, you said Chameleon, right?
Chameleon.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hard to pick. I mean, you guys already kind of took the
big ones.
The ones that I was going to choose. I would probably
stole my answer.
I would also probably go with Black Cat, only because I think they did a great job removing Tom Holland and Peter Parker from MJ. Like, he had a chance in the donut shop to say what he wanted to originally say there, and he just walks out. I think that's a great dynamic, and then he finally gets to like live in peace for a week in a really shitty, dirty apartment, and you can see him like, even though that he was a little like hurt by not being able to kind of communicate with her, he kind of left that way because he doesn't want to bring her back into his world because of the dangers of what could happen again. So he finally has that moment where he can just breathe and just be normal, and no one knows him again.
And it's a more familiar Spider-Man, because now it's like he's broke, he's in an apartment by himself. It's not like he's getting funded by Tony Stark. Like, that never happened for Spider-Man in the comics.
They do a great reset, like a great job on the reset and bringing him back to.
Yeah, so it's perfect timing to bring another love interest in, and instead of a Peter love interest, it's a Spider-Man love interest. So you can put more of a focus on, he's not really Peter anymore, because there is no one that knows him as Peter, because Aunt May is gone, and now all his friends are gone. So he's really just Spider-Man at this point.
That is such an unhealthy thing. Like, you're saying all these things, and I left the movie theater feeling like, man, Peter's alone. Every down to Happy Hogan.
Yeah, Spider-Man 4, all alone.
Yeah, for real, and that's an unhealthy mental place for him to be.
Like, he didn't even have Ned, who was like providing his like comms and stuff.
And he's a kid. His kids, he's talking about a 17, 18-year-old. He didn't graduate high school. They made a reference to the GED. So he's going to be starting off broke as hell, behind the 8 ball. And it's what he wanted. He was always conflicted. Like, he wanted to get out of school to go be Spider-Man. He wanted to, that decision to leave MJ and Ned in their safe space is partly selfish.
I think that's like a perfect movie for him to go through all of these encounters with Black Cat, to go through with Kraven, Scorpion, Kingpin. And actually, the animated series Kingpin actually hires Kraven to hit and kill Spider-Man, or to take him out. It's a cartoon, but
and it creates a real.
And it was Kingpin that formed the Sinister Six,
Exactly.
too.
Yes,
so they never technically called them the Sinister Six. So we still have the Sinister Six to
There's
tackle.
only 5 in this movie.
True.
What's interesting too in the game, the PlayStation game in particular, the
good.
newer one, Kingpin. It's so cool when you put Kingpin in the picture because Spider-Man thinks taking Kingpin out is going to save New York, but if anything, it makes it way fucking worse. Because Kingpin has all of the lower tiers of crime, and now all those syndicates under control. You know, it's under his fist. He manages it and makes sure it's within a realm of control. And when you take Kingpin out of the picture, all hell breaks loose. And I think, you know, if you bring Kingpin in, Spider-Man takes him out, you get to see that now. And
I would like to see Kingpin as maybe like the main focus, and then Black Cat as like the main love interest side story for Spider-Man.
I think
and
she works for Kingpin at some point too. I feel like he pays her.
Well, she's a bank robber, so it's not. She's a thief.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, the obvious one though is the Venom situation.
Well, that's what we know where we're going next.
Yeah.
What do you guys think will come of that? What do you think? How do you do that in a way that's compelling? Because I think they've set it up properly.
I think they're gonna have the symbiote discover Tom Holland. It's going to be down on his luck. He's going to be like, oh, well, this is like the first upgrade in tech that I've gotten in a while.
Yep.
It's going to start bringing him down that darker path. He's probably going to remember what Tobey Maguire told him about rage and kind of get freaked out by the powers of the suit.
Yeah.
And I think that they're probably going to end up introducing that universe's version of Eddie Brock. And it would be interesting to see if they actually do the true comic version where, like, it's a rival journalist that's kind of, like, stealing his thunder, and
makes sense.
It's a, vengeful kind of thing.
He's a journalist in the movie.
No, I know, but he's in a whole different universe because he gets zapped away.
There's a couple of things about it. So right now, Peter thinks everybody's safe because nobody knows he's Spider-Man. Now, the note, it's Eddie Brock, right, in the end credit scene?
Yeah.
So Eddie Brock says, let's go find Spider-Man in New York. I got to go talk to him.
Then he gets zapped.
Then he leaves. But the symbiote leaves a piece of itself behind, which I'm sure knows, Spider-Man, let's go find him. Let's go to New York. When he attaches himself to Peter, he's going to know what Peter knows, right? The symbiote learns and knows what he knows. So it's going to know MJ. It's going to know Ned. It's going to know these things. And when Peter does eventually go through that arc of wearing it, getting scared, and getting rid of it, that's when that kicks off that whole MJ, Ned. Everybody's
now he's going to have another villain that knows.
And they're going to have no fucking idea. MJ's not going to know why something is coming after her. And
do we even have Venom in this movie, or is it just a symbiote?
Just a symbiote for now. I mean, Venom.
What do you mean in the next movie?
Yeah.
No, I would say there's going to be a Venom because that symbiote. Once Peter wants
he's
it gone,
gonna get rid of it.
Yeah,
he's gonna want it off him.
Attached to somebody else.
I expect him to kill somebody. That's actually my expectation. Is Peter exerts X amount of power and kills somebody?
Like what Toby did to Flint Marko.
Exactly. I think every Spider-Man has accidentally
That's
killed
fucking
some.
interesting, man.
Fucking interesting.
I have a bit of a crackpot theory that I don't think it's gonna happen, but it's a possibility in Marvel given how many fucking left and right turns they've taken. But I think what could be interesting, I have a feeling they're gonna do a very a small time skip, like past maybe MJ and Ned are away in Boston now maybe.
Probably because you're not gonna get this movie for several years.
Yeah, maybe by then Tom Holland could grow some facial hair.
I don't. That brings up another thought that you.
I think that what could happen. This is my crackpot. I think Tom Holland gets the black suit first. He gets that. He
starts dancing in the streets.
Yeah, embraces his inner darkness, and when he sheds the black suit off and the symbiote falls, maybe it's not Eddie Brock. Hear me out now. Maybe it's Miles Morales, because when Spider-Man and Peter are grown up now, a few years down the line, because keep in mind Peter is a lot older than Miles. Miles is young, by the time Peter in the game at least, he's in his late 20s, maybe early 20s.
Is there any precedent for that?
Well, I think they kind of mentioned, well, Jamie Foxx,
No, I'm saying, is there any precedent for Miles wearing the symbiote?
It could be that's how Peter finds out about who Miles is, like, and that he is a Spider-Man, because Venom technically...
You mean, like comic-wise, has it ever happened?
No.
They're so, I don't want to say, like, they only do it was in the comics, but... sorry, continue.
Yeah, the Iron Man Jr. thing wasn't, based on the comics either. That was a complete left field thing. And I think it's, I think it'd be an interesting take on incorporating Miles.
Civil War, in the comic Civil War, Iron Man, I think, does help convince Spider-Man to reveal his identity. Because Spider-Man's the initial hero to reveal himself. Because he's the only one that has the most secret identity out of, I think, all of them. And when he comes out, it inspires others to do it, but it also causes all of the villains to go after Peter, and Peter almost ends up dead.
Yeah. I think it'd be interesting, though, because one, that you can find a way to incorporate Miles in a very organic manner while Pete's still young.
And they already have, actually. It's weird you say that. They have introduced Miles' family, but not his mom, dad, or Miles. It was his cousin. So in Homecoming... the guy, Danny Glover?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Miles'
Okay.
cousin or uncle or whatever they call him.
Who's uncle?
He's related to Miles. So they have kind of dripped that in. So you're thinking symbiote goes to Miles?
It could be, because then Pete has to realize, oh shit, like this, he's got my powers.
It goes against what I said before. Okay. Little skinny Venom is not Venom.
No,
you know what I mean?
No.
Like, I want to see
buffed up,
better than even what Sony did with what's his name. I want to see
Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy, like, cool. He looks okay. He sounds fucking ridiculous. I hate the way his voice is like. I'm like a moron. I hate that whole thing. I don't like any of that dynamic. It's giggly, like it's stupid. It's like Venom is a serious, dark fucking villain. Like there is a gravity to Venom because and they're really gonna toy with it actually in the next game. Miles, Miles, Peter, and Venom are in that next game with Kraven and all that. So I think the game is gonna deliver almost what we're looking for. More than
I'd love to
movies.
see, like, I don't know how much crossing over they're gonna do, but like Blade,
has to be.
How about Blade versus Morbius?
Same director too.
Oh
cool.
Yeah.
Blade Morbius.
Morbius would be
like
cool.
That seems like a logical crossover.
But that Morbius movie's gonna fucking suck. I'm sorry, I'm predicting it now. Sucks already.
Yeah,
I just
not excited.
Blade with Marshall Ali is gonna be fucking so dope, and I really hope. I did watch the older Blades recently, and
those are fucking
they're
great.
violent, and like
they're great.
There needs to be blood and guns and shooting.
It's got to get an R rating. Like it's
cursing. You know what I mean? Like that. They can't go soft on that Blade franchise and that darker Marvel. Area.
I just want a good Venom and I want a good Carnage. Why is it so hard to ask for? Like
Marvel, let Kevin Feige and Marvel do it.
Perfect.
Then don't watch the last Venom movie.
I will not.
Like the Marvel Knights. Like I'd love to see that shit.
Who comes up with this shit? Is it like a group of dickheads who never read anything? It seems like there's a team of guys who are like, the nerds. It's like us in a room coming up with a script, and then it has to go to the business people. And they love fucking things up.
No, it's just
incredible.
It has no fingerprint on the MCU.
On MCU, that's true. It goes back to
the thing I said about the Andrew Garfield Spider-Mans. They're just not fucking good. Like they're just you don't care about them. You don't consider them like a part of the rest of the movies. And they just don't correlate well. Like this Venom is just like it's a comedy kind of. It's just fucking goofy, man.
A knee slapping kind of movie.
Exactly. Goofy is not what the tone I want to feel. I want fear. I want like holy shit.
The
like,
perfect Venom and Carnage are in the original PlayStation 1 Spider-Man game. Venom is fucking scary in that when he takes MJ away into the sewers, and then Carnage at the end of that movie.
Spider-Wars, come out and play.
It's
so good.
With bringing up Miles, it's an interesting thought when Spider-Man 4, because I do expect Tom Holland to return.
Yeah,
he's playing the game with negotiating. I don't know if I want to do it anymore. Blah 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 blah. Let somebody else do it. But like, you just don't end it here. This is not the time to end it.
No.
You really are hitting.
I promise I won't drop that again.
That thing's cracking.
Oh, dude, it's
been
cracking since I was a kid.
But it would be interesting to see. It would be interesting to see Venom beating Peter.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
Peter not able to win. There's no.
And that's realistic because like he's invisible to his Spidey sense, like all that.
He knows everything about him because the
Venom
symbiote
can go
passes
invisible too.
all of that knowledge,
like fully invisible.
And then maybe Miles comes in and reveals his powers, and because Miles is kind of.
I don't think you see that. I think you'll see I think they'll go with a Miles Morales movie before you'll see a next Tom Holland Spider-Man movie.
No chance.
I wonder if
chance.
that'd be cool,
zero precedent
that'd be cool.
for that happening because unless it's a Sony movie, not an MCU movie, no chance. There's just no way to establish Miles independently.
You could.
No, because
he is an independent character though.
Not really. He's always
Feast.
introduced through
Peter.
It's always like Peter becomes his mentor just naturally. I think in the comics or the game,
he goes through like a youth group maybe in this movie because he doesn't have any friends and he just starts
he would go through Feast because in the game Miles goes through Feast and now nobody can run. No.
His mom, I expect Miles' mom to become heavily involved in Feast.
Yeah.
That will start to establish them, but I don't think you can let Miles come swinging in without
introducing him.
Without a little bit more building.
That is the MCU way to kind of use that into there, so it makes sense.
Even with when they introduced Spider-Man, when Tony goes to visit him in Queens, it's a very clever way to skip all of that prelude that we saw in those other movies. Like we don't need to see the Uncle Ben death. We don't need to see all those things twice.
I've seen it already.
With Miles, you just don't have that.
Yeah.
Like you need to give him
an origin story.
Yes, enough so people care. So you're watching, because when he does eventually pass the torch, just by nature they have to.
A couple of movies.
Do you think they would change his origin?
And here's the question: how do you outdo this movie? The question in the room of businessmen is: this movie just made more than Infinity War.
You can definitely outdo this movie.
What's gonna bring people to the theater? Like, what's the next move we can do?
Do you think they would bring in like a Madam Web, like a whole? That would be interesting, like Madam Web.
They'll leave a lot of that to
To me, this last movie was like the ending of the last 20 years of Spider-Man on screen. They kind of brought back all the characters, and they kind of just got rid of all these characters who, whether they were hit or a miss, they kind of gave them like a finish.
It's
and now we're moving on now.
It's simultaneously ties the bow for all those guys. Doc Ock with Toby.
All of them.
Andrew with the Lizard and saving
Electro.
MJ and Electro. Like, they really tied a bow on those where you almost don't need to
have
revisit
them.
Yeah,
it's done.
They're cured. They're done. They're their stories are finished.
So I think there is a way to top this movie. I mean, it's through like the characters that we're wanting in there, like Kingpin and Venom, and Black Cat,
Venom,
Scorpion and Kraven and the Sinister
comes down
Six.
To that shit.
Absolutely have that. And
how are you going to do a $300 million movie?
That's what I was.
No, you know how you top that?
What do you say?
Spider-Man, X-Men.
Hold on. We can't go there yet. We can't go there.
That's how you top it.
Fantastic Four has to happen first before X-Men.
Well, I mean, we were talking about
can't wait to talk about
Burroughs in Brooklyn and stuff like that. I thought that was a great little Easter egg to have Daredevil, as Spider-Man's lawyer.
That was so Matt Murdock.
And now, where's that gonna go?
Disney
Plus. I would love to
Disney
see.
Plus.
We're talking about the symbiote going to Miles, but imagine the symbiote went to whatever his name is.
Daredevil?
No,
that wouldn't happen.
I'm just saying.
It'd be fucked up, but it couldn't.
It sounds like Chris works at Sony. We work at Disney.
So we're gonna make Miles Morales because we're gonna do a blood transfusion from Spider-Man.
I don't see Miles Morales getting the symbiote. That's just
that's fair. That's my crackpot theory.
Yeah, totally. That's what we're here to.
I'm going.
That would be interesting though. If Miles Morales gets created.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
I hope we have this podcast in 4 years.
But imagine if they made Miles Morales get created because like Peter has to like save his life and he has to give him a blood transfusion and then he gets the spider powers.
I hope they explain how Miles gets his powers because that will inform how Tom Holland got his powers. You know what I mean? Like how Peter. We don't know how Peter. We just know he got bit by a spider.
You would assume.
We don't know where the spider came from. There's no Oscorp. There's none of that shit. So now when you do an origin story for Miles,
it'd be hot shit if it was Stark Tech that turned them.
I think it's Stark Industries. I do think it is
because their stuff got.
The Stark is the replacement for Oscorp.
What would get rid of Oscorp? A successful Stark.
Their stuff
like
too.
That knocks.
The building had been getting like they've been this whatever the fuck those guys were that were coming in and raiding the offices and taking all the stuff out. You could see Stark Industries stuff leaving the offices. So now, hey, you know, I'm sure they're mishandling it to a certain degree.
Oh, it's the government. They're fucking mishandling everything.
For a spider to get out.
What?
But a spider bites Miles in Feast. So I'm assuming if you see Miles, who's in Feast, that is where it'll happen. Where you get the origin story of Miles begins.
I just never liked that though. That they just have the same type of spider just comes down.
It's
and
different.
It's a little different, but I mean it's the same thing because he gets all the same powers.
No, Miles gets different powers.
Yeah, but he's got all the same powers and then some. It's not like he.
But then you have to realize that shit mutates too, and it could be a mutation of the original.
Like the Unicron spider.
I'm just saying the spider's out there and it only bit one fucking person.
Unicron Spider-Man.
Pete is a heightened version of Miles because Miles his powers are more spread out. Pete is a more powerful version of the base powers. Miles gets the shock.
And Tom Holland's Spider-Man is a healthy blend of Peter Parker and Miles Morales'
absolutely.
stories.
Yeah,
He's definitely.
I have a question.
Okay.
Will anybody remember who Peter Parker is?
No.
Why do you say that? Because I have some evidence to the contrary.
I'm sure you do. I just think that Doctor Strange's spells reach far and wide across the worlds, and
across
I know
all universes, across all multiverse, across the galaxies.
They're gonna say the Guardians of the Galaxy know who Peter Parker is.
So, it is said
that they're gonna make a 3.
Doctor Strange says the whole world is gonna forget who Peter Parker is.
Not the
says
whole,
the whole
not
world.
The whole universe.
Doesn't say the universe. Doesn't. Endgame.
Thor.
Endgame. How is Captain Marvel introduced to Peter? He goes, "Hi, I'm Peter Parker." She goes, "Hi, Peter Parker." Like you know what I mean? Like to me, there are multiple entities that may not be in reach. And even with
we're digging now.
I know. I'm just saying.
I hope I get proven wrong.
It's not out of the realm. It's not out of the realm.
I hope I get proven wrong on this. But
I don't think it'll be conveniently brought back like, oh, they just remember him. But when we get to Fantastic Four, when we get to the next big
it's clobbering time
event, like I do expect the next movie for him, the standalone, to be dark, for him to be isolated, and for him to have to grow out of that baby phase of Stark took care of me, everybody was around me, I was supported by all the shit. But once you get past that, like when we get to those major crossovers,
and he's gonna need the Fantastic Four because Johnny Storm is like he's
a pal.
like escape too. You know, like they chill out on the top of the what is it?
Chrysler Building?
Not the Chrysler Building. The Statue of Liberty is where they hang out.
When you get enemies like Doctor Doom, when you get those like villains who it's gonna require like everybody coming back together to fix it. It can
it'll be the next big like Avengers-esque.
Absolutely, I think Fantastic Four it, and it'll just help with his.
If they do it right, because they fucked up twice on it already.
Doctor Doom, can't wait for that.
They fucked up.
Peter has to remember who he is. Peter can't just cleave the past. You know what I mean? Everything he went through with Stark, all of that shit that happened.
He won't.
But I think in his identity, he's losing it because he doesn't have Happy, he doesn't have May, he doesn't have Ned, he doesn't have anybody. He has nobody. His closest friend is going to be J. Jonah Jameson in the next movie. So I feel like for the character, and again, not in the next movie, but one following that, it's going to be important for Peter to remember. Like Peter Parker's important for him. He's important to the universe. It's not just Spider-Man, because right now he's all in on Spider-Man. That's what he's going to focus on. The GED book, everything's to the side. He just wants to be Spider-Man, and he's going to try to envelop himself in it to try to maybe forget Peter in a way, and that's like unhealthy for anybody. So I just feel like maybe at some point it would be important for someone to come back, whether it's Thor, whether it's Captain Marvel, or it's fucking funny through the Guardians or through a sense of humor. Like someone should still remember who he is, what he did. I don't think it's healthy for the character long term to just cut it all off and be like, oh, never happened. No one remembers it. It never existed. But it's funny to think everyone will still remember what Spider-Man did. You know what I mean? Everyone will remember Spider-Man regardless. Mm-hmm. Thor or any of them would be like, oh, Spider-Man. Yeah, I know Spider-Man. But
it'll be inconsequential to some of those characters because Peter Parker being Spider-Man is not significant to Thor. Thor just knows his battle partner.
Yes. But it just for a young kid who's 18 years old and is growing.
In fact, Stephen Strange only knew who Peter Parker was because they were stuck on that planet with Tony Stark. You know,
on Titan, and it was like, oh shit, hey, I'm Peter. Oh, I'm Stephen.
Do you think we will see in the Fantastic Four, Avengers-esque, kind of movie? Do you think we would see Doctor Strange in that movie as well, given he's worked with, he doesn't know Peter anymore.
He's probably going to be...
Is it a possibility?
Well, he's the Sorcerer Supreme that's supposed to protect the planet.
Yeah.
They're probably going to introduce something like Galactus as like a planetary level
Keanu Reeves.
problem. And Silver
100%.
Surfer is going to like approach the planet, and Stephen Strange is probably going to be the first layer of defense.
That's true, and I thought it was interesting that I talked about the off camera was they really established that the Sorcerer Supreme has no clue about the multiverse, does not understand it in any way, shape, or form, to the point where even what is happening because of the spell, that's not all happening just because of the spell. Like that spell crossing the multiverse, I think, because they continued the movie exactly from the point of the end of Far From Home, there is no time breakdown. You can easily say the events of WandaVision, Loki, and Spider-Man No Way Home are all happening simultaneously. And the reason for the split, for the multiverse split, has nothing to do with Peter. And I think eventually Peter should find that out, because he's like blaming himself. He's in this blame, kind of mentality where he thinks he caused this. And I think, yes, partly, okay, trying to change everything and be specific and make people forget.
Or maybe the shit wouldn't have been falling apart as easily if...
It wouldn't have, you wouldn't see Doc Ock and all the other Spider-Men come over if there isn't a multiverse. And they establish in Loki, through Kang, that there is no multiverse because he created the sacred timeline. The multiverse exists now again because Kang's dead, Scarlet Witch is born. So I hope now, of course, they're bringing in the what if scenario. Doctor Strange is going to have to learn, and that's why he goes to Scarlet Witch. What is this multiverse? How does it work? And now they're going to help inform us of what the real impact of the multiverse is, because I like going loops trying to figure out how are there different Spider-Man?
Let's go home then. Let's talk about the next movie is going to be Doctor Strange. Yep. Are we getting that next year? Are we getting that May of 2022?
Yeah, this May.
Okay, so it's right around the corner.
That's soon.
Also, Spider-Verse 2 coming around.
Into the Spider-Verse, fantastic.
That's gonna be fun.
Still has a higher ranking than the latest Spider-Man 2. It's 9.7.
Spider-Verse is a fucking incredible movie.
Oh, they
graphically, everything.
They informed, I think, this next movie. They did a great job of kind of showing how do you do crossover, how do you, how these characters interact with each other.
Spider-Verse 2, you get the multiverse now. Who knows? I think I'm looking forward to it though. I think Spider-Verse 2, I fucking love that first movie. I think I saw it like 4 times. And, the music, the visuals, the writing is all so fucking good.
And a cartoon, we talked about this with anime, anime allows first the immediate suspension of disbelief. So it doesn't have to be grounded in any sort of relatable reality. And it just allows them, it gives them that flexibility to go above and beyond. I feel like with the movies, when you're watching, a non-animated character, you have to grow into that suspension of disbelief to make the audience go along with it. So I think Doctor Strange, did you guys see Loki or What If or any of that stuff?
I did.
No,
I did. I watched both.
So another thing
I'm
about
on episode 3 Loki, on episode 4 WandaVision. I couldn't finish that. What If I'm on the second episode?
If I were to recommend, if you were trying to cut through it or something, I would say WandaVision, last 2 episodes, most important. They're essential to understanding what's happening. Loki, last 2 episodes, essential. Absolutely. You can't not see those and understand what's going on now. And What If episode...
So much shit.
And this is why they're so good, dude, because
so much
now...
shit coming out now.
That
getting
shit
it comes
matters.
This week alone, we have fucking Cobra Kai and we have the Book of Boba Fett.
Oh, That's the 29th.
Yeah, the end of this month. So I mean, it's just too much shit. I don't have time to watch all this stuff.
No, it's just it's a credit to them and how they can make
Disney
something
Plus is like
seem
the best deal, and like I don't care what anybody says.
Definitely. How can you make a cartoon, let's say a spin-off cartoon, all of a sudden matter to your multi-billion-dollar movie franchise?
Talking about the What If.
It's What If, yeah. So I would say episode 6.
I love those comics. I have those comics. Yeah.
Watch 6, 9, and 10. 6, 9, and 10 are the essential viewing to understanding Doctor Strange, because in the trailer to Doctor Strange, you saw...
My favorite What If is What If the Hulk killed Wolverine. I have that comic still. I'll bring it over
till they
one
bring
day.
in Wolverine. Like, now the door is so wide open for Hugh Jackman to come waltzing into this fucking universe.
That's going to be like the next level. Like, if they want to top
so now
bringing all 3 Spider-Men in.
Because now I want, like, the Infinity Gauntlet again. And I want, like, Mephisto. And I want, like, you know, Galactus. And I want Silver Surfer. And I want, like, you know, Wolverine and the X-Men and all these characters to kind of, like, go through.
It'd be interesting if they bring in the Beyonder and Battle World and the Secret Wars. And
right. The
Secret Wars is going to be fucked up.
Secret Wars would be sick.
Yeah, that one.
They could do Secret Wars and not have it tie into kind of.
Now with the shit they pulled off already, it's not out of the realm of possibilities to do a Secret Wars.
Iron Man, they could bring back Cap, because if they brought back, you know, Doc Ock and Green Goblin, and it's possible.
I have one last question for everybody, and it's kind of like a far off idea, but with the multiverse and X-Men and all of the possibilities, would you want the X-Men to be brought in through a multiverse element, or would you want the X-Men to have existed this entire time, like underground and hidden?
Well, you can almost answer that question with the Eternals. Were you satisfied that the Eternals existed this whole time and did nothing during all of the events of these movies?
That's a good point.
I agree.
That's a good point.
It doesn't make sense to me that they would be gone.
Like the you know,
they're in Westchester.
Yeah, they're just upstate New York. So I mean, it would behoove like the entire like universe for just you to say, oh, the X-Men were here the whole time. They just didn't give a shit.
So yeah, I agree with that. I think it would be difficult to say they were here and then they just did nothing. The only thing about it is I feel like it would help establish something about the X-Men that's very true in the comics.
They don't get involved in human affairs.
They fucking hold the superheroes, Captain America, Iron Man, to this pedestal. They're like the fucking greatest thing to ever happen. And this happens in society too. People with special abilities, you know, people with enhancements and all that shit. But if you were a kid in high school and you had some fucking like weird thing about you, you'd be ostracized. It doesn't matter what the fucking thing was.
The difference between mutant and superhero is what you're saying.
Yes, and I think it is important
to separate it,
to make the X-Men feel like they've been
outcast,
pushed underground. They don't come out because of what happened during World War II and Magneto, and like it would almost help if they were there and Xavier was like, we can't get involved in this because if we do, you know what I mean? Like maybe
he's protecting his people.
Yeah. So
and Spider-Man could be the bridge the gap for that, because even in the cartoon,
he is the bridge.
He was somebody that is a superhero that it was caused by a mutation. He wasn't born as a mutant, but they accept him as a mutant because that's what he becomes.
Exactly. I like that because it to just pull them in feels cheap. To just be like, oh, and I like some people have asked, like, will the Fantastic Four have an origin story? Because we already had 2 origin story Fantastic Fours. It's like, will,
the cosmic rays,
will he just appear and be like, we're here to help? You know, how cheap does that feel? Never mind, like, oh, they were here and they didn't help.
I mean, that also goes into the story of, do you throw Deadpool in this now too?
Oh, they're on the verge. I know that they're.
Oh, I think we could talk all fucking
I know
night.
it brings up so. I know.
Fantastic Four, X-Men. We
got at least 25 more years.
Yeah,
but that just it came to mind. It came to mind because of the multiverse now.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, just kind of final thoughts on this. Out of 10, what do we give this new movie? Let's start with you.
9.8.
9.8.
9.3.
Okay. 9.2 for me.
Yeah, I agree with the 9.8 if there's no such thing as perfect.
Yeah.
You know?
Because the 9.9 would be like X-Men, Spider-Man, Avengers, like fucking like
yeah, if they do
top tier movie telling, like it would be hard to hit that 9.9.
9.8
There'll
is
be
very
other
high.
9.
That's
super high.
enormous.
Yeah.
That's a ridiculous score. Krill, he killed it.
For the effort they put into making that movie, I'll give it the 9.8 because they pulled it off masterfully.
9.4.
No, you can't retract that.
No.
That's a rookie move.
No, I'm considering I have a 90.
You already
score
made
of
your
90.
score. You can't
It's all above a 9.
All above
so,
a 9.
I mean,
That's all that fucking matters.
It's above a 9.
It's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, you shouldn't have watched this.
What
so
the fuck are
we're
you doing?
sorry.
Fucked up.
Watch it.
Sorry.
But if you
But
are
don't blame
watching
us.
this while
Thank
you're watching it, like, comment,
Like,
subscribe, share.
comment, subscribe, share.
Please.
Do
Please,
it.
we love you guys
Tell
for
your
checking
friends
us
to
out.
do it.
Tell us we're fucking stupid. I'm totally okay with
I'm
people
impressed
telling
if
me.
you got this far.
I know nothing
That
about
guy
the
out
MCU.
there who
I've
said that-
apparently established I know
who
nothing
said that
about
we
the
know nothing
MCU.
about the
sitting
MCU.
here.
Absolutely know nothing.
I'm glad you
I've
commented.
never seen any of those.
Yeah, no,
I'm glad
I
you
always-
spoke to us. We love
the
that kind of
interaction.
engagement. But for all of you still watching, make sure you go down below into our description. Check the socials. We got a Twitter, TikTok, Instagram.
TikTok.
You name it, we got it. Bing bong. Go check it out. Anyways,
God help
this is
us.
the Break Room. The boys. We'll see you next time.
Hold you.
Punisher, do you have any threes?
Go fish. So, nice of you to join us for once, Spidey.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was out saving the world.